In this video, I'm going to share with you on what to expect on a college visit. And if you are new here, my name is Evan Mendoza, and I have 7 years of professional baseball experience under my belt between the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres. I also went through the recruiting process and landed a scholarship to go play D1 baseball at NC State University. I was also on varsity all 4 years of my high school baseball career, and I'm quite literally that guy who loves to talk development, mindset, and even the recruiting process. So let's get into what we can expect on a college visit for you and your player. So let's first off diagnose what kind of visit this is actually going to be. All right. So if this is a self-led visit, I'm sorry, but you were fed some bad information. This is not what you should be excited for, right? A self-led visit means you're basically just visiting the campus. You're probably not going to have access to the baseball facilities, any of the locker room, the clubhouse, the medical areas, the clubhouse, the dugout. You're probably just going to be kind of on the outside looking through a fence, and that's definitely not what we want. So make sure if this is an actual visit to attend, this university with the assistance of the coaching staff. So obviously, if you're going to a campus for the first ever time, you should have some sort of correspondence with the college coach previously. And it might not necessarily be the head coach. It might be the assistant coach or the recruiting coordinator. But either way, this is the area where you really want to make sure that these college coaches are guiding you through, really what it's going to look like for the next 3 or 4 years when you're attending that specific university. You should look at, things as far as what to expect. You should be looking at things like, obviously, the baseball program, the facilities. Obviously the facilities play a huge role because when we're, trying to gauge out where our home's going to be in the near future, we want to make sure that we have the facilities to nurture our growth. And I've seen this happen actually a couple of times in the whole college recruiting process. We have a very, very, very hardworking baseball player who's on varsity, who has been on varsity for a couple of years now, and they've established a great work ethic and a great routine to be able to get work done by themselves. But then they go to a college that doesn't necessarily have the facilities to nurture their growth. Maybe they only have access to the cages at certain hours of the day. Maybe there's a fob system where the coaches will lock them out because they don't want players to be working too hard. I've heard it all, guys. So, number one, the facilities. Are they going to nurture your growth? Next up, obviously, is the campus. You should be able to fall in love with the campus that you're going to be spending time at for the next 3 or 4 years, right? So, and also the reason why I'm saying 3 or 4 years is because I got drafted after my 3rd year, after my junior year of college. That's when you become draft eligible. It's definitely lucrative to get drafted your junior year opposed to your senior year, but that's for another video. Obviously, the campus you should be able to vibe out with, you should enjoy. Personally, for me, I never wanted to stay in the state of Florida because I grew up in Florida. I knew that it was hot, humid, sunny all the time. I also know in the fall, there's a ton of hurricanes, lots of rain. I just knew I didn't really want that. And I also grew up a little bit also up in the Northeast, up in Maryland. That's where I was born. I kind of knew North Carolina. I went to NC State. So I kind of knew in between. I missed the seasons. I get to choose where I'm going to go play college baseball, hopefully. Let's choose a location that I truly like. So the campus, obviously, you should be able to fall in love with. And as far as the expectation of this visit, one thing that I remember happened when Chris Hart guided myself and my family to on the campus tour of NC State, they also visited the engineering campus, which is something that I was interested in, being in their engineering program. I know it was very, very challenging. The time commitment was challenging, but obviously being able to visit that campus as well, since it had its own separate campus, all right? You should also understand and visualize what your living experience should be like, all right? And this is something that, again, Chris Hart did an exceptional job of showing me basically the athlete dorms that I'm going to have to be forced to live in just for the first summer session. So it was only for like a month and a half. It wasn't too bad. I definitely do not love the dorm living, but that was a requirement. So that's something that you should also ask. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself, but understand what the living situation is going to be, right? The baseball team, after that first summer session, you were allowed to live off campus, and we had our own apartment complex. It was a really chill environment. I had my own room. I had my own closet. I had my own bathroom. We had a living space in the middle. It was a 4-bedroom apartment, and it was awesome. It was amazing. It's all that I could have ever asked for, right? And then last but not least, maybe as far as expectation, you might share a meal together, depending on how quickly, they might have to run to a tournament, a game, anything like that. They might be looking at other prospects as well. So it just kind of depends. Also, other expectations that are kind of newer in this whole process as well, in these higher end schools like the LSUs, the Tennessees. Sometimes they'll really, really nurture you because they really want you. And typically you'll know that because they'll give you, the jerseys to try on. You'll do a little photo shoot. They're going to make you feel like a celebrity, which is something that's going to be really excited, right? You should be excited for that, right? If you're not necessarily going to one of those top end schools, don't necessarily expect this. That's not something that happened at NC State, but I was able to go through the facilities. I was able to see all the jerseys, all the equipment. They had it laid out on the table because that is a selling piece to some people. I know a lot of people love the University of Oregon simply because of the equipment and the Nike jerseys and gear that you get. So should your family come, and should my family come? So as far as immediate family, yes. If you have any, crying babies that are going to slow down the group, I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend, bringing them, because more than likely there is going to be a decent amount of walking throughout campus, throughout the facility. Whenever you are on a college campus, there will be a lot of walking. There's usually like a bus system. Every university typically has that. So as far as immediate family, yes. As far as the campus visits that I went on at NC State, I think it was just my mom and my dad and my sister. My brother, I believe, at the time was living in a different state, so he wasn't able to come. So, my sister's older than me, so it didn't distract anything that was going on, all right? All right, so what questions should my player or should I ask these college coaches? So, number one, your priority probably should be academics, but everyone's in a different situation, right? So, like, what kind of academic support is provided not only to the baseball team, but for all athletes? And, the athletes at NC State, we did have academic advisors. That was actually on the floor above where the athlete dining hall was, right? So that was actually really cool. At NC State, we could eat, we could study all in the same building, right? There is another area of the academic side of things where there's a certain amount of study hours that are needed to be completed every single week. And at NC State, again, the same exact thing happened. I think we had 10 hours of study hall hours that were required. And it was a simple clock in, clock out based off of a fob system. And if you didn't hit that, you would be notified by the head coach telling you basically that you need to get it done. And there were definitely repercussions. So something, that you should definitely ask about. Your player should be having the majority of the conversation. And I can't stress this enough. And that's simply coming from my experience of where my mom typically had conversations for me. I was very soft-spoken. I was very shy in high school. But showing that these college coaches, basically that your son has a personality, that's what they want to see. They want to see what kind of player he is, not only, of course, in their skills. And you have to remind yourself, not everyone has the opportunity to be invited for a coach-led type of college visit, right? So these college coaches already kind of have decided that the talent's there. They just kind of want to see if he is going to be able to mesh together in the program. Let him have those conversations. Let him obviously ask the questions, answer the questions from the college coaches. Obviously, make sure that, you let him be himself at the end of the day. Don't necessarily be that parent who's overstepping and guiding the whole tour, right? And really, demanding certain things or expecting certain things. Kind of take a step back right here. This is going to be one of the first steps in your player's career as far as him truly getting that, level of maturity and confidence to be able to walk on his own 2 feet. Hopefully that's the case already with your player. But for me, I was a shy guy. My mom kind of overstepped a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think at NC State, she let me have those conversations. Another thing just to expect real quick, what happened for me at NC State, we would have the coach's office upstairs in the press box kind of area. And that's where, the assistant coach, as well as Elliot Ava, our head coach, sat down and basically talked with me and my mom. And, that's where they basically offered me the scholarship opportunity, a little bit on the details on how that would happen, and gave me basically next steps. I didn't actually commit on the spot at NC State. I wanted to think about it, and that's what I told them. They weren't too pushy. I know that some college coaches are very pushy, saying you only have 24 hours and this and that. Be careful of those. But, having those detailed conversations is something that you should expect when you're on one of these visits. Next, are there any physical or mental tests to prepare for? So this is a question that would be really, really helpful if the player asked it, because then it's starting to show these college coaches his gears are starting to spin a little bit in the best way possible. Because at NC State and a lot of D1 baseball programs, a lot of college baseball programs, there is a conditioning test or some type of physical/mental test, because a lot of the times it's mental, such as running a mile under 7 seconds. Or at NC State, we had conditioning tests after Thanksgiving break, I believe, or it might have been after Christmas break. And the first thing that we did was a conditioning test. It was 150-yard shuttles, basically 2 cones, 25 yards apart. We'd have to go there and back, 3 round trips under 30 seconds. And I think we had to do 8 of them with like a minute break in between. And I think I only got 7 of them done. So I had to do early morning, 6 a.m. conditioning because I failed that test. I was 1 away. I was so close. But that's something that your players should start to understand, like what level of a degree do they really, make sure that every single one of their players is at peak performance, which sometimes the player might be scared off, or it could be like, oh, I love that. I love how there's not going to be a weak link on the team. We're all here to basically win ball games. And one really, really good question to kind of determine on where the coach's standpoint is and their perspective on certain areas is, do they believe in red shirts? All right. If they believe in red shirts, that's actually a good thing, because there were times at NC State, unfortunately, where some freshmen got burnt their freshman year, and they burnt their eligibility because they took a couple of at-bats. And that really stunk for those individuals, because that's a full year of eligibility wasted on only a few at-bats. College coaches know this. Obviously, if they didn't take those at-bats, they could be labeled as a redshirt for that year. They get an extra year of eligibility, which extends your ability to play this game for longer, right? So ask them that question, kind of see what their response is. They might be a little bit of they might throw a guard up a little bit, because that is a question that is a little bit more, in a specific, and you kind of understand like why you're asking it, because some players, their freshman year, just simply are not prepared to play D1 baseball. So you want to know that before committing, if they offer you. And then last but not least, as far as a great question to be asking these college coaches is, do you believe in freshmen playing? And if you haven't already, do the research beforehand so you understand what their response should be and see if it matches up. Because if they only have one freshman playing every single year, and they only believe in one freshman every single year, and maybe that one player is just a standout, right? And if they tell you that, yeah, we absolutely love freshmen to play, they're usually our everyday guys. We usually have 3 or 4 guys in the lineup at the very bare minimum that are everyday guys for us. And from the research, this is the opportunity that you have beforehand to do a little bit of prep work to understand truly what they're all about. Also, that can be applied to the redshirt ability or question as well. Do you actually believe in red shirts? And if they tell you, no, we don't believe in red shirts, and you see that there's nobody that's redshirting, that means that everyone, for the most part, is getting some level of playing time. It might be a couple of at-bats. It might mean that you might be burning a year, but, those are all situations that are completely for you. Obviously, if you love the campus, you love the facilities, you love the coaching staff, those are the main takeaways of a college visit. For your player. I can't stress that enough. Make sure that your player, if he likes that university, if he likes the academics, he likes the coaching staff, he likes the facilities, let him make this very, very monumental decision, sometimes on his own. Obviously, have those conversations, but let him decide. Real quick, that one movie, The Blind Side, obviously they were pushing Michael Orr into the direction of, I believe, going to Ole Miss, right? So don't necessarily be that type of parent where you're pushing your son in a certain direction. Nobody is going to enjoy that. And last but not least, what should my player wear, or what should I wear? I would just say something casual, but on the side of professional. If your player wants to wear a golf polo, that's perfect. That is exactly what the coaching staff is going to expect him to wear, with some khakis, with some, golf shorts, with some pants, whatever he wants to wear, as long as it's not like sweatpants, right? You don't necessarily want to give off that first impression on who you are as a player. So make sure that you're telling him that before this college visit, because obviously there's going to be a lot of things he's very anxious, he's very excited for, but he's also very nervous for. So he might, skip out on, what his wardrobe looks like when he's packing up his clothes. Let's say if you do have to get on a flight, make sure that you and him are both prepared as far as what you guys are going to be wearing when you're first, introducing yourself to these college coaches. You only get one first impression, so that's when you really need to make it count. And if you want your player to have a direct roadmap on how to turn into a college prospect in just 14 days, go down below in the description. You can download our 27-page blueprint, everything that I teach inside my academy to all my students completely for free. So go down below in the description and download that blueprint right now.